Day 10, our very last full day in Jerusalem. This was a good day.
It was a very good day.
As compared to yesterday.
It started
off... If you haven't
off...
watched it, go back and watch yesterday. You'll understand why.
It started off with really good breakfast. We got to sleep in a little bit, which was...
We started at a magical time of 11 a.m. The first tour was 11 a.m. as opposed to most days where we left the hotel by 7:30.
Yes. Not that we slept in, because you can't sleep in because we are all messed up and jet lagged, but...
True story.
It was nice.
So we chose to actually go tour the city early in the morning with our pastor and his wife.
So we left breakfast and took a taxi for sake of the pregnant lady over to the Damascus Gate. And we were gonna get on the old city wall, and actually you can walk along the city wall, which was really cool, except when we got to the Damascus Gate, we found out you can only enter it at the Jaffa Gate, which is by our hotel. So it was still, you know, a good trip. Heather got some perfume, had fun sampling that. Walked our way through the city, kind of touring around. The actual old city is smaller than I was anticipating, so that was interesting. We made our way back to the Jaffa Gate, which is by our hotel, and that's where you can get on the old city wall. So we bought our tickets and went up, and you're walking along, which is really interesting, just the perspective of the city. You're kind of up above things. You can look out and see, yeah, a lot of different things.
So at that point, it was getting close to time where we were supposed to be meeting up with a group. As we were walking along the city walls, we had to make a decision because I didn't expect to be out in the morning that long, and I still had to get back to the hotel and grab more of my camera gear, otherwise I would be out of battery life and everything like that. So it was either stay out, meet up with a group, and do that, and be without my camera stuff all day, or I could take a taxi back and meet up with the group later. So we actually chose to stay out a little bit longer and me take a taxi. So the reason we stayed out a little bit later was to visit a very special place in Jerusalem, which was Caiaphas' house. Searching for Caiaphas' house. Sorry, fire truck.
Ambulance.
We're all gonna say we're gonna go down this random street.
It's over there, look. You see it?
We can see it. We're gonna find it. We're gonna go down a backyard neighborhood in random Jerusalem. If you all see this video, you know we're still alive. That's how you see that. Yeah.
Or maybe not.
We've made it. We've made it to Caiaphas' house, even though
we get in that neighborhood jaunt.
That one neighborhood jaunt almost got us killed. So you're like, what was Caiaphas' house? Do you want to tell them?
This was the place where Jesus was kept overnight before he was crucified. And so you can actually go down. Of course, there's like this big, you know, church built above it now, but you can go down and they have a cistern there, which would have been one of the places where they would have kept prisoners overnight. So we actually got to see the spot where they believe Jesus was kept overnight before he was crucified, which was very interesting.
Yeah. So we left there. I took a taxi back to the hotel real quick. Crazy driver. It was awesome.
We went and met up the rest of the group. They had already left the hotel on the bus, and we were all started waiting in line by the Western Wall to go up onto the Dome of the Rock on the Temple Mount. About this time he gets back from his taxi ride, which took all of the money.
Took all the money. And I forgot this one vital thing that our tour guide said. Our tour guide had specifically told us that, hey, once you go up to the Temple Mount, you can't bring in any bags, and if you bring a camera in, it can't look professional, which my whole video setup is I have like a monitor and a tripod and a nice little mic and that kind of stuff. It looks professional. So I got there and he's like, hey, what are you doing with your bag? And I was like, oh, no. So I literally had a moment to figure out with my tour guide like what to do with my backpack and all this camera stuff because they would not let me in. He goes, okay, so there's this bakery place that we know. I know them really well, they're trustworthy. You can drop your bags off there and come back within 3 to 5 hours and nothing's gonna happen to them. I'm like, that sounds sketch, but okay, you're a tour guide, I believe you. The problem was this was like 5 blocks away in the middle of Jerusalem, and we're literally about to enter into the Temple Mount in like 30 minutes. So I take off running, and I eventually make it up there and sprint all the way back in time for us, like 5 minutes left before we go into the Temple Mount, and I'm like dripping in sweat and exhausted. And I'm ticked off because I only have literally my camera and my lens that I can film with. We're walking up the Temple Mount.
Kind of.
You can't hear what I'm saying anyway. Why am I talking? And that's it. No tripod, no GorillaPod, no mic, no nothing. And so we go into the Temple Mount.
Which was really intense because the whole Temple Mount, the Dome of the Rock, is run by the Arabs now. And so it's like their security, their modesty, it's just a very tense environment.
You can literally feel the tension. It's kind of weird. But like as soon as we got inside the Dome of the Rock, there were literally two guys inspecting the women in our group and saying, hey,
on the Temple Mount.
You literally had, like, they were telling the ladies in our group, hey, your elbows are showing, you have to cover those up, or hey, your neckline is showing, you have to wear a scarf.
And it was like up to here, everything, like this would not have been, like it had to be like down to the wrists, and it was a very tense time. But
like needless to say, our time up at the Temple Mount and seeing the Dome of the Rock was pretty impactful. I got some really awesome time lapse that I think is very rare to do. I just set my camera down and let it go. We got to see the Eastern Gates,
which was my favorite because and it really is a privilege to get to go there because you can now, they let non-Muslims up there only twice a week for 1 hour, so it was a big deal that we even got to go up there.
Yeah.
But you can actually go right over to the Eastern Gate, which is where, you know, Christ will come back through. But it's interesting because several hundred years ago, 1380 I think, an Ottoman emperor heard that, you know, Christ was going to come back, the Jewish Messiah was going to come back through the Eastern Gate, so he boarded it all up like with all these boulders, and so you now actually can't walk through it. And it's just fascinating to like know that this is like the real place that stood like at the time of Christ, where he's gonna, you know, make his return. It was very powerful to actually get to see that.
So right after we left the Temple Rock, our tour guide takes us to get some refreshments with some pomegranate juice. It was perfect. But then after we left the Temple Rock, we went to the Garden Tomb, where it is believed that it might have been one of the possible spots where Christ was buried and placed in a tomb. Nobody really knows for sure.
Crucified as well.
But they suppose that. One thing is for sure, if that story is true and that exact location is true of where the actual place where they crucified and buried Christ, there's a couple of songs that I have issues with now hearing. So like there's a song that, a very popular gospel song called On a Hill Far Away Stood an Old Rugged Cross. Well, in reality, if we're not paying attention to like our preconceived ideas, it's probably like on a street corner really nearby off a road, you know, hung a rugged cross for everybody to see. It's interesting seeing different perspective shifts once you're actually there and you're seeing the actual geography. But we got to have a worship service with our whole church, which was really nice. We got to sing some songs, got to go inside the empty tomb, which was really impactful. As you're leaving the empty tomb, they quote the scripture that says, "He is not here, he is risen," which was really awesome. We ended the night by going back to our hotel and having a nice last dinner with the whole group, and just giving out some really cool awards. But I'll end this last video with our very special moment that I wanted to share with my daughter Grace about a very interesting thing that only is in Israel and I've never seen anywhere else in my life. So here's the clip. About Israel that we thought you would love so much because we have this at home is their blow dryer. It's this. And you just take it off. And then you're done.